Hey there, I'm Vix. Welcome to my channel. For this week's drawing, I'm going to use some Arches hot press watercolour paper, which has a really nice smooth surface. I am also using my favourite mechanical pencil, a kneadable eraser and a ruler. This week I am going to be drawing a robin and painting it in watercolour. This picture was sent to me by one of my very good friends who likes to do a lot of hiking and walking outdoors, something that I am not the biggest fan of. So I just asked him to send me any old photo. I wasn't sure whether he would send me a landscape or maybe, some nice pictures of trees or some leaves or flowers. But I was so delighted when I was sent a picture of this really cute little robin. Animals are like my favourite thing to draw, so I was totally in my element with this one. Thank you very much, buddy. I wasn't too bothered about proportions being totally accurate for this piece, but I did want it to have a kind of resemblance or be just kind of close to what the subject's proportions actually were. So sometimes I find a ruler can really speed up the process and make things slightly easier. Just a couple of marks that you can use as guidelines. So once I'd done that, I filled out the basic shapes, kind of circle for the head, a large kind of oval shape for the body, roughly placing the tail and the legs. The picture of the robin was taken quite far away from the subject, so especially in the leg area, I couldn't really see what was going on, parts of it with them being so skinny and quite close in colour to the ground that the bird was standing on. So I just kind of had to wing it and give it my best shot at guessing what the legs should look like. I am no expert on bird anatomy, so this was probably a total disaster, but I think it looks passable. So now that I've finished my sketch, I'm just quickly taking down my watercolour paper to stop it buckling while I'm painting. This tends to happen if you use quite a lot of water. Sometimes with small scale painting you can get away with not taking it down, but I prefer to do it anyway. I just find that the end result looks better and it dries flatter. I have picked out a limited colour palette that I want to use for this, although I do add some extra colours in towards the end of the painting. Before I start painting at all, I am just quickly rolling the kneaded eraser over the top of the sketch. What this does is it lifts up any excess graphite and stops that getting into the watercolour paint. Sometimes if there is an awful lot of graphite on your paper still, you will see the sketch through the watercolour, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's actually something that I think looks very appealing in a lot of watercolour paintings, but it reduces that if that's something that you don't like in your paintings. And also if there is still a lot of graphite on the page, that graphite can get into your watercolour and make the colours look a little dull and muddy, so it's always advisable to do this. I always try to be careful when doing this because it's quite easy to lose your sketch after the first wash of watercolour if you've lifted it up a little too much. So yeah, don't be afraid if you can, you're still kind of supposed to see it. It will not be that visible once the painting's done. But it really just depends on your taste and, degree to which it bothers you seeing the sketch underneath. So I'm using a large mop brush, and getting started I just wanted to add in some kind of interesting abstract shapes in the background of this. The photograph I used was really just a kind of rocky path that the bird was standing on, so I didn't feel like sitting painting that. So I just picked out a really nice sap green colour. I thought this would be quite pretty. You'll see me during this video as well using a hairdryer quite frequently. I am not the most patient person in the world, so yeah. I always have my hairdryer handy. The hairdryer is quite cool as well for getting certain effects. It's good for, if you want to blow the water in a particular direction to create splatters or anything like that. So it does have multiple uses. And it's really, really good if you're super impatient like me. So I just wanted to start off by marking in the kind of largest areas of colour on the bird with my washes. I wish that I had been a little looser with this, to be honest. I think it would have been more interesting if I had not stuck, I guess, so neatly within the edges and was a little more expressive with my brush strokes and things like that. But that is something that I want to work on personally and incorporate into my own kind of work style. Some of my favourite watercolour pieces have really expressive and dynamic brush strokes and things like that, so that is something that I want to focus on in the future in my own work. Now that the first wash is down and dry, I am just going in and building up layers, shadows, a little more detail in the eye and the beak, really just defining the main areas of the work. I wanted to use kind of blue, purpley colours for the shadows in this. They are kind of my go-to colours for shading the shadows. I also just love the blue pops against the orange. Shadow areas and starting to pick out some of the flight feathers and other details around the face which I want to be more noticeable. I was still having a little bother with the legs as I couldn't really see them in the picture, so I just kind of used my best judgment to get them in there and try to make them look not too strange. I hope they're like passable. I don't think I made a horrendous job on them. Yeah, they're certainly not anatomically correct. At this stage I thought my painting was looking a little boring, so I decided to spend a little more time on the background. I wanted to add some yellows and some greens. I also added a kind of darker purple shadow underneath the bird just to make it look like it wasn't maybe floating in midair. I actually kind of regret putting the purple shadow underneath the bird. I don't know whether that really worked the way that I wanted it to. That is something that I will maybe need to revisit in the future and figure out why I don't like it and what I could have done differently. I really wanted to push that red colour in the chest by adding another layer of the kind of orange watercolour, as I wanted this area to be the focal point of the piece. I really like the blue shadow that's just at the top of the wing next to the chest. I think to get them next to each other, the contrast of those colours is really, really nice. that I maybe went a little too dark on. I used this just to add a little bit more definition to flight feathers and make some minor corrections and type things. I still thought my painting was looking a little dull and boring, so to make it more fun and interesting to look at, I decided to use a splatter technique. This is a technique I've not used very much, but I really like. It's a lot of fun to do. So I decided to use my large mop brush and load it up with quite a lot of paint. Depending on how dark you want the spots, water when you need more or less. I wanted my spots to be quite dark, so I used quite a lot of paint, and I just used a smaller brush to tap the large brush against to create the splatter effect. I think this turned out really quite well. I subsequently done this with a few other colours, and once I had got my splatters and where I wanted them to be and took the kitchen roll off, I realised that they had landed on the head of the bird, which I didn't want. The good thing about this technique is that if you work quickly, you can use a bit of kitchen roll and just dab on any areas that have splatters that you don't want to lift them straight back up. So it was very, very easy to correct that on the head. Some splatters on the tail that actually look quite good. I guess the tail of the bird is not really it's not the things I wasn't too bothered. Anyway, with that, I really hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you'd like to see more, please subscribe and click the notification bell. I would love to hear any suggestions for future videos and comments below. Tell me what you think, what I should improve, and what you would like to see in the future. I hope you had a wonderful day, and I will see you again next time. Catch you later!